Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Dynasty After Dark. I'm your host, Calvin Timms. You can find me over on Twitter at TDC_Calvin. You can find Dale on Twitter at Dynasty_Dale. And you can find the Dynasty After Dark channel on Twitter at FF After Dark. Thank you guys for coming back today, and I'm excited. We're going to be talking about our My Guys for 2023. We got a lot of stuff going on right now. News is starting to pick up every single day. We got some Kamara suspension news that's probably going to be dropping in a video here in the next couple days. We've got Not My Guys coming out later this week, some guys that we want to hate on for this upcoming season for Dynasty and Redraft, and kind of give you some of our thoughts there. But yeah, it's a good time of year, and did we miss anything, I guess, with the Hall of Fame game? People are nitpicking everything right now.
I don't believe so. I think we have come to a consensus as a nation that Zach Wilson is not it.
What? Why? He was fine. He was fine. What in the heck?
I know, but
the haterade is strong.
That's because he was playing against, third, fourth string players that probably won't make it on the team. So
just give him 1.5 years with Aaron Rodgers, and he'll be fine.
Hopefully.
What is it? What's Aaron Rodgers' famous saying? Just relax.
Relax.
Just relax. The Zach Wilson hype train will pick up when Aaron Rodgers retires here in just a couple years. It'll be full bore, man. He's going to be a good player. I honestly think, and this is not, we're getting off the rails a little bit here, but it's a fun conversation. There's a lot of hate around Zach Wilson, but he's a good player. He has all the talents that you need for a good quarterback in the NFL. He just needs to be better mentally.
I think that's very wrong. I think people fell in love with a throw in shorts.
He was good. He was good his last year in college.
No,
he was very good. Yes, he was.
He was playing against high schoolers, Calvin.
Oh, come on. He was
playing against mediocre talent in a poor conference in BYU. That's all I have to say.
I mean, who did Justin Herbert beat? He was in Oregon. Who did Josh Allen beat? Come on.
I mean, at the very least, Justin Herbert played in the Pac-12.
Am I supposed to care?
An actual Power 5 conference.
Am I supposed to care about these non-SEC conferences? Come on.
So until you actually watch
that's fair.
College football, Calvin,
that is fair.
Don't be talking.
That is fair. This is not the Zach Wilson that I thought it was, is it?
I hope not.
What? Brigham Young. This is not the right guy.
That is the right guy.
Is it? I thought you would.
He went to BYU. Yeah.
Oh, is that BYU? I did not know their name was Brigham Young. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Brigham Young University.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Yeah, he was fine his junior year. He had 70 rushing attempts for 250 yards.
He had overinflated stats.
Dude, he had 10 touchdowns rushing. That is nuts.
He had overinflated stats. He played in a very weak conference, a very weak schedule.
He was actually really good, though. 73% completion percentage. I don't care if it's an easy conference. That is still a very good It's a good number.
All right,
it's a good number. Good number. He's going to be good. He's going to be good. He's my guy. Yes. For 2025, he's my guy.
Please,
right. All right. So that said, let us jump into some of the my guys. And the whole point of this is, we're not going to be talking about every player out there, but from a dynasty perspective, these are guys that we believe in for this season, and also long-term as well. Not just this year, but there's maybe some depressed value, except for one of Dale's guys. We'll spoiler alert that, but maybe he's depressed value considering how high one of his direct competitors goes in some leagues right now. But I think all the guys that we have listed here are guys that we think are going to jump up pretty highly after this year in terms of dynasty value, and they're also going to help you win pretty heavily this year as well. So we're going to talk about one guy from every single position and just give you some guys to go and target in your leagues potentially. And you can let us know down in the comments if you agree with us, disagree with us, or whatever your thoughts are on the matter. But if you can, just leave a comment, leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. We got more content coming out, and we're going to be putting stuff out throughout the entire NFL season as well. We're still figuring out what the content's going to look like exactly for that. but we're going to have nonstop content for you guys. The channel has grown quite a bit this offseason. We do truly appreciate all you guys out there that have subscribed to the channel and keep supporting us in those ways. So we're going to just keep rolling here and jump into the quarterback position. You can start off with your hot takey quarterback here on who your my guy is. I had to let him have this one, guys. He is a homer,
yes.
so, you know.
Yes. I'll be very honest. Like, for 3 out of the 4 positions, I had Ohio State players, and Calvin told me to calm it down.
I did.
I fully agree. So at quarterback, my guy, Justin Fields, he, in my opinion, I mean, I'm biased. I will say that till I can't say anymore. Like, I'm biased against Justin Fields. You know, I watched him play at Ohio State. I think he is him. He is fantastic. I mean, people think he's a running quarterback. Really, he's actually he's a very excellent thrower of the ball. You know, unfortunately, last year in Chicago, he had hardly anybody to throw the ball to that was competent and had hands to actually catch the ball. So, thankfully, like, he's getting DJ Moore. You know, I know there's some comparisons that he's getting with, like, it's the Jalen Hurts leap that he had with AJ Brown. I don't think it's quite like that. You know, I mean, I like DJ Moore, but he's not AJ Brown by any means.
I agree with that 100%.
Yeah. But I think as an overall sense, like, we saw who Justin Fields can be in Chicago if they let him just run the offense and be him, because he is this athletic freak. You know, as of right now, he is quarterback and sleeper. He's quarterback number 6. Which I think is a very fair, but, you know, I would not be shocked if he is quarterback 1 this year or is very close to quarterback 1.
Yeah, and that's where the potential value comes in, right? Because he's still potentially depressed, right? And some of these guys, I will admit, you know, like Justin Fields, I like him a lot, just like you're talking about. He's a good player. The rushing side of his game is just elite. Like, you can see if you're watching here on YouTube, Dynasty After Dark YouTube channel here, we've got some video. 160 rushing attempts, 1,100 yards, 7.14 per carry, which is crazy for a quarterback. Like, considering running backs sometimes can barely make 4 yards per carry and he's doubling that, that's pretty good for a quarterback. 8 rushing touchdowns. Now, the passing stats, like you mentioned, are not very good, but with that rushing line, he finished as the quarterback number 7 last year. You get that passing work up to 3,500 yards. He has vowed to be the first 4,000-yard passer in Chicago Bears history,
and I think he will be.
I think he has the potential.
I don't necessarily think it's going to be this year,
right?
Because there's still some gelling to do with that offense. You know, and he's going to have DJ Moore for a couple years. Like, they just signed Cole Kmet to that big contract, so they have a tight end coming in. And they're probably going to have a top 10 pick next year, which they'll probably potentially take. They've got
Carolinas. I mean, they could have 2 potentially. You know what I mean? So
yes, very possibly. Yes.
So yeah, Marvin Harrison Jr. would be on the board there, and I do believe Justin Fields has a very safe floor with the rushing. Yes. He has a very high ceiling if he can get the passing game on board, and then the Bears have built this offense up and this team up in the last couple of off seasons to really support him where needed. Now, they need a little bit of help on the offensive line, but I do think that's going to be coming as well. So, no, I'm with you 100%. I think that he's someone that could really spike in value after this year, and that's why, you know, even though he is quarterback number 6 on Sleeper, you know, I think he's the consensus quarterback number 8 across, like, all platforms and everything. There's still some definite value there that if he does get it together, you know, look at Jalen Hurts. He's the quarterback number 3 almost universally, and I think that that's the type of ceiling you could have with Justin Fields, that you're buying him still before he hits that peak there. So I'm going to jump over to my quarterback here, and my quarterback's actually going to be Geno Smith. And you're going to say, what? Geno Smith? Why? Why Geno? Why, oh, why?
Yeah, why Geno?
Because currently, this is why. He is currently the quarterback number 20 in redraft rankings and quarterback number 22 in dynasty rankings. And I think that is extremely cheap for someone like Geno Smith. Now, you go back to last year, quarterback number 5. you're saying, oh, it's just an outlier season. It's an outlier season. It's possible. It is definitely possible. Or this is what Geno has finally become. His 5 games with Seattle in 2021 were very solid. They were very good games for what he played in those years. So we have about a year and a half now of Geno playing very well for the quarterback position, right? He's on a team where Pete Carroll believes in this guy. They signed him to a 3-year contract. First 2 years are basically fully guaranteed. They're not moving on from him. They had the number 5 overall pick. They could have gone with a replacement if they really wanted to. They could have gotten aggressive and traded up for someone like a Stroud, for example, or whatever, if they really wanted to. But they didn't. They took a cornerback with their first pick. They believe in Geno Smith to lead this offense. Now, you look at what else they added, right? They added Jackson Smith-Njigba. They added Zach Charbonnet. This offensive line, they added a few pieces. Go back to our Seattle Seahawks recap video, offseason recap video. This offensive line should be very good again. They started to get a little banged up at the end of last year, but they added a few depth pieces as well. This offensive line should be very good. The defense should be much better as well, giving more opportunities to the offense. And, when you look at the fact that it's just funny to me that the guy finished as quarterback number 5. All they did the entire offseason was pay him, add more weapons to the offense, and his ranking drops out of the top 15. Like, he's not even a top 15 guy. And that's where I think that Geno Smith is going to be a massive value. And that's why he's my guy for this upcoming season, is because I believe in his ability to return heavily on the quarterback 20 pricing that he has right now. And, if you're in a redraft league and you can get Geno in round 10, 12, something like that, at the last pick in your draft, dude, I am all for that, because I think he might not be 5 again, but I think he has top 12 potential for sure. Top 10, definitely. It's definitely within the realm of possibilities. And at that price, quarterback 22 in Dynasty, he's only 32 years old. And I get it. He's had a checkered past, but I mean, we're just passing up free points at this point.
Yeah, I do agree with everything you said, but I feel that, I know I'm probably going to get some hate on this, but I feel that last year was an outlier season. And I think he's going to regress a little bit more to the mean a little bit. I still think he can. I still think there's a lot of weapons on that offense that are going to be there for the next couple of years, especially. With him only he's only 32, but in quarterback years, that's kind of your, like, towards the end of your prime, honestly. So I can still see him having a couple relevant years. I think he's a very, very solid quarterback too. I'll be very honest. So,
Fair.
I think he could be a top 10, but I think I would rather place my bets in a nice, like, 12 to 15 range, which for where he's going is fantastic. Like, that's the kind of quarterback you want, that has a pretty good baseline, every week, and really isn't going to necessarily bust.
Right. Yeah, and that's why he's my guy for this year, is because
100%.
I think he's a safe guy you can get him for, a second round pick in a super flex. Like,
yeah.
It's nothing that you can pay for Geno as a potential just weekly starter, right? A weekly floor for a guy. So, Geno Smith, he's my quarterback, my guy. Let's go into the running back position here, and let's hear your guy that you want for 2023.
All right, so my guy is Nick Chubb of the Cleveland Browns. I know for some people that's going to be surprising. With him being 27, he's going to be, I think midway through the year he's going to turn 28, and that's where we hear a lot of the prototypical cliche things, that's the running back cliff, and I get that, but I think Nick Chubb is a Derrick Henry like player, where even though he doesn't catch a lot of passes, he may not do those things. Like, he has that ability, and he has the strength and I guess lack of injury history, where he's going to be okay. He's going to be very, very solid week in and week out. Yes, I do understand that when Deshaun Watson was there, that was a little scary, but they were also trying to figure everything out. They were figuring out that offense, and I think they're going to click a little bit more
Mm-hmm.
to what he was doing in the beginning of last season when he had Jacoby Brissett. So, I really like Nick Chubb. I know a lot of people are fading on him because of his age, because of the Watson situation, but I really think for the next couple years he's going to be really great, and plus he is under contract until 2024. I mean, they do have an opt out for after the 23 season, um, which is a pretty low dead cap, which they may do, but they've they've shown that they want Nick Chubb on their team.
Yeah.
Like signing them before his rookie deal was up, kind of stuff like that. So like, there's been things in the Browns front office where they've shown that they value Nick Chubb and that they're going to feed him and they're going to make him the focal point of this offense. So you
Right.
know, in a very long story short, I love Nick Chubb for the next couple years. And if you're in a win, if you think you're in a win now, go after Nick Chubb, because in my opinion, like, he's going to give you a championship. Like at the very least, like, you'll make playoffs with him, and I think he's gonna turn almost full Yeti, like they say that Derrick Henry does.
Yeah, for sure. I think that he's going to be a very good player, and there is some potential value. He's currently the RB7 in Dynasty rankings, RB3 in redraft. So I think people are kind of appropriately valuing him in redraft,
Yes.
And I get
Yes.
that. But I think, like you said, in Dynasty, he feels like someone that's a lot safer. He's going to be
Yes.
somebody who can play later into his career and just be as productive. Just the insane amount of work that this dude does off the field every single year is it's crazy. So no, I like that a lot for Nick Chubb here. And I do agree, the fact that he's ranked running back number 7 in Dynasty does not feel accurate. I got a lot of flack in a league this offseason where I actually traded a Nick Chubb with a package of a couple of other players, right, to go get Bijan because I was kind of deep in some of these positions. And, Nick Chubb is getting a little bit older, and I'd rather have Bijan for the longevity and all that, right? And people are like, oh, what a steal. Bijan's worth way more than Nick Chubb. And I was like, are people... Am I missing something? Like, am I on the outside of some news on Nick Chubb that he's not a superstar still, or what am I missing? But yeah, people seem to be down on Nick Chubb more than what the consensus ranking kind of says right now. But maybe people are just starting to come back around. Maybe that's what it is. But no, I like Nick Chubb quite a bit.
Yeah, I kind of think they are a little bit, but I do know a lot of people are kind of off of these running backs that don't catch the ball as much.
Right.
But, I know that's not in his. I hate when people say in their player profile, but it does ring true. Like, he just doesn't catch as many passes,
Right.
And kind of stuff like that. So I do think they're going to utilize him a little bit more like that, because who else is in that backfield?
Yeah, I'm with you.
There's literally nobody that has really had any valuable snaps in the NFL back there. So
Yep, I'm
I
with
think
you.
he's going to smash the next couple years.
Yeah, yep, for sure. Now, my running back is in the same conference, and it's actually going to be Najee Harris with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And Najee is crazy to me because the guy was a first-round pick just a couple years ago. And Pittsburgh, they move on from Ben Roethlisberger. Roethlisberger dumped it off to Najee 1 billion times his rookie year, which is crazy. The fact that Najee had 401 touches his rookie season is nuts, right? Finishes as the RB number 3 overall. Last year, a little bit more of a down year. Only has 340 touches. Like, what are we doing? Like, the guy still had 340 touches in a bad season, right? Where he was not as productive. And you look at his game log, It's crazy to me that the fact that people just completely ignore, I guess, the fact that he had a steel plate in his shoe. You look at the first half of the season, and then when he got that thing out, I believe it was right around the bye, and how good he was coming off the bye, even with a bad Kenny Pickett. It's just crazy to me that he's still being valued so lowly, especially with such a controversial running back landscape out there, I'll say, right? Now, he's currently the RB10 in redraft, so still going a little cheaper. I think that he's got top 5 potential again with this line and this offense, right? They tried to improve the offensive line. They get Broderick Jones, who's a massive upgrade on the offensive line. They get a couple guys later in the draft. You can go listen to our recap on the Steelers for some of our thoughts there. But I'm not a big fan of Kenny Pickett. I don't think he's very good. I'm not a big fan of Matt Canada. I don't think it matters. The amount of volume that Najee is going to get, not many running backs in the league get as many touches as Najee. And if he doesn't have a foot steel plate in his shoe, right, foot injury, then I think he's going to be just fine productively. And if they can get him utilized more in the passing game, similar to what he was his rookie season, I don't think he'll ever get 94 targets again, which would be great if he could. But last year, even in a down year, he had almost 60 targets, right? And I think that the compromise between that is kind of like 75. If you can get Najee 75 targets, I do think he's a difference maker from the backfield as the weapon that he is. So running back 10 in redraft, running back 12 in Dynasty. And again, as a guy that he's older, I understand that. He's 25 right now, but he's a monster. He's a big dude. He's came out a little bit later. He's got plenty of time left. He's a first-round pick, and he's going into year 3. So he has at least 3 more years with the Pittsburgh Steelers, who just are going to give him the rock a million times. It's what Mike Tomlin has always done. He always does this. So you have 3 guaranteed years of high volume for a good player. So I do think that Najee, when you have so many guys ranked ahead of him, like Austin Eckler, you've got guys like Nick Chubb, for example, you've got Travis Etienne. There's so many guys that are above Najee, and I just cannot understand why. They're way more risky. Like, for example, Travis Etienne. If Tank Bigsby is as good as everyone is saying he is from training camp, he's going to drop next year off of a lot of people's boards. And I just think that Najee is going to be steady. And all this Jaylen Warren talk, I don't even care about the kid. He had like 80 touches the entire year last year. Wasn't even that good for fantasy football. So, he was more efficient. But he had 80 touches. Who cares? That's nothing compared to the 350 that Najee had, even when he was bad, right? So I think that Najee is just being a little bit too disrespected, in my opinion. But I think that he's a slam dunk for redraft and for fantasy if you can get him on the cheap right now.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with that. And for how bad Kenny Pickett was last year, he's going to be better this year. I don't know how much better.
Right.
Probably not very much, but I feel he's going to progress to the mean a little bit, and he's going to be better. He's going to throw for more yards. He's going to throw for more touchdowns. So, I think that offense is going to click a little bit better. And I do agree that Najee is going to be a beneficiary of that. And history proves that Mike Tomlin is a 1 RB, offense kind of guy. So, that's going to be Najee. I understand the Jaylen Warren hype because a lot of people are out on Najee, but as long as Najee's healthy, he's going to be the guy.
Right. So, yeah, definitely a value in my mind. Let's hear your wide receiver that you want to go all in on this season.
All right, so my guy is Jahan Dotson from the Manders. He is he's coming into his second year, and he's going to be playing with probably the best quarterback he's probably played with probably his whole lifetime. He's coming from Penn State. They're not a quarterback factory by any means, but I will say that he as of right now, he's going as in some redraft leagues, he's probably going at wide receiver in the like 38 or so, like around there.
Mm-hmm.
His value is pretty depressed because he was injured for some of the season last year. Unfortunately, but it's when he was on the field, he was electric. Like his first game, he had a couple touchdowns. I think within the first 4 or 5 weeks, he had like 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
So yeah. So and he's paired up alongside Terry McLaurin, which I also love Terry McLaurin, but I've been seeing uh there's like a trend that a lot of people are off these first year wide receivers, or it's these first year wide receivers that don't hit as much, have some production but aren't to their draft value, which he was a first round pick. I think he was like the 16th pick 2 years ago. And he's coming into an offense with Eric Bieniemy, who's probably going to use and abuse him. I'm really excited for the whole Commanders offense, as a whole. I think they're going to be much better. I mean, with Howell or Brissett, I don't really care who the quarterback is, but I know they're going to get the ball to Jahan Dotson.
Yeah.
He was targeted 61 times last year in 12 games, which again doesn't seem like a lot, but they were going through a lot of turmoil in the quarterback position, which they do annually. Unfortunately, and of those targets, like he had 35 receptions for 523 yards. Like that's still a pretty decent rookie year,
Right.
and
Very
and
explosive.
Yeah, it's extremely explosive. He's very fast. He's athletic. Like he has all those measurables that you like to see of a guy coming out. Like he had an early breakout age, and I just feel that we're sleeping on this guy because he's on the Commanders. And, I just see him taking the next step. Like he's going after some guy, like he's going after like Treylon Burks.
Mm-hmm.
Like I would much rather have I would much rather have Dotson than Burks. He's going after Michael Pittman. I'd rather have Michael Pittman. I would probably rather have Dotson than Deebo Samuel, even, in Dynasty, especially. So, personally. So, I feel I feel he's someone who's going to take that next step this year,
Mm-hmm.
and I think he's going to be a solid wide receiver too. I don't necessarily think he's going to be a wide receiver one because there's too many of those guys.
Sure.
But,
yeah, everyone's a wide receiver
I can
one
see
now.
Yeah. I can see him being like a low end wide receiver one, like a solid wide receiver two coming into year three, and kind of being in the conversations of what we're having with like Christian Watson this year,
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that. So, I can see him taking the next step up.
Yeah, he's a good player. He's currently the wide receiver number 41 in redraft. So, again, definitely some value there. 35 in Dynasty. And
Yes.
if you believe he can be a top 24 guy, 11 spots doesn't sound like a lot. But when you're talking about value, right, especially a wide receiver, there's so many guys right there in that range that you can get a lot of them on the cheap when you're trying to target a position specifically. So if you believe in Jahan Dotson, he's definitely a worthwhile buy right now just because of his value, right? So, and one thing I think that is extremely telling for Dynasty players is when there's a large gap between their Dynasty and their redraft value, right? Where, and it came to me with one of the not my guys that we'll talk about next time, but like, for example, my wide receiver is going to be Jeudy for the Denver Broncos. His Dynasty or his redraft ranking is wide receiver 29, Dynasty ranking 21. Why is he so much more valuable in Dynasty than he is for redraft for this season? Like, that doesn't make any sense, right? And that seems to be a gap, right? And, that's something that you can exploit. And that's where you're trying to gain value for some of these players. Like Najee, for example, is the converse, right? Where people think he's going to be very good. Nick Chubb is the same way, right? Where he's the redraft RB number 3, Dynasty RB7, and it's only 4 spots. But if people think he's going to be better now, and they still think he's going to be good long term, well, just go buy him if he's cheaper, right? Because everything is saying long term, you're going to be able to buy him cheaper. Now, Jeudy's a little bit opposite. Everyone think he's going to be more valuable long term, so they're trying to buy him for more long depth and everything. But people aren't excited about him for this year, which is why I am making him my guy, because I think that he's going to smash both wide receiver 29 and 21 value, and he's going to be able to return heavily on his trade value and everything like that. So Jerry Jeudy, I'll talk about him really quickly, and we'll talk about this a little bit more with the not my guys in some of those examples, but I do think that when you look at the gaps, that's where you're trying to target the gaps and get your value in those separations, right? So I think that's the easiest way to try and identify value, in my opinion. But Jerry Jeudy, last year, 100 targets, 67 catches, 972 yards. Last year, Denver was a dumpster fire. They were terrible. But you look at Jerry Jeudy and what he was able to do. You know, he missed a few games in the middle of the season, and that's kind of been his MO. You know, I don't love that about Jerry Jeudy. He has missed a decent amount of time the last couple of years, but, you know, looking back at the last couple of years with the Denver Broncos, it's been a train wreck in terms of quarterback play. And they have not had a guy that has been able to consistently get them the ball on a routine basis. You know, it was Drew Lock a couple years ago. I forget the other guy that was in the battle with Drew Lock. It was not a good situation. Then they trade for Russell Wilson, Nathaniel Hackett, Russell Wilson. They're both really, really bad last year. Everything has said Russell Wilson is way better this year. And you look at the depth chart for this team, they just lost Tim Patrick. Poor guy, tore his ACL, now he tore his Achilles. He's done. He's a 31-year-old. He's just done. He's not ever going to be able to return to that to an elite level. They still have Courtland Sutton, who Dale loves in his hot takes and everything. But they also drafted Marvin Mims. That's about it. They really don't have a ton of guys. And when you couple that with what he was able to do after he came back from injury last year with Russell Wilson, even going into it, they were starting to get more and more synergy and, you know, cohesion between the two of them. Against the Jets with Sauce Gardner, who was shutting down everyone, Jerry Jeudy still had 11 targets and 7 catches for 96 yards. Like, against the Jets, really, really good defense last year. He was very good against them. Then he goes into the Jacksonville Jaguars. They're a little bit more of a mid-tier, gets injured, comes back, you know, has 33 points. He has 3 touchdowns in a game. He has 15 points, 19 points, 11 points, 26 points. And the 3 touchdown game was the only touchdowns he scored for the rest of the season. He just did all of it with work after the catch, you know, and massive volume. And I don't think that's going to change for Jerry Jeudy. I actually think it's going to get better with someone like a Sean Payton running this offense, being able to create a good offense. And Jerry Jeudy is going to slam back to what we thought he was going to be when he was coming out of Alabama, and he's going to jump into a top 12 dynasty wide receiver. Now, Dale just said everybody's a dynasty wide receiver 1 right now, but legitimately, Jerry Jeudy's only 24 years old. He had all the potential. He was that year's number 1 wide receiver consensus, right? Everyone was excited about Jerry Jeudy. Didn't live up to the billing. Got passed by guys like, is that the Justin Jefferson draft class? Or was that the year after? That was CeeDee Lamb. I know that he was in that draft class, so it would be, right?
I think so.
Yeah, it would be the Justin Jefferson. You know, you've got CeeDee Lamb, another guy that has passed Jerry Jeudy, and Jeudy has just been slowly and steadily regaining his value from what he was drafted as a rookie. So, Jerry Jeudy, I think that there's a lot of potential for him this year. What are your thoughts on him?
I agree with that. I mean, I've always been a little bit worried about Jerry Jeudy. I mean, I really liked him coming out because, you know, I thought he was a route tactician, you know, able to come in and out of his routes really well. But he's been having a little catching the ball problem, which, you know, is an issue if you are a wide receiver. But, you know, I think he has a lot more a better rapport with Russell Wilson and with Sean Payton coming in and being the OC basically. You know, I think he has a better chance of scheming him open, doing and just and that whole team just being better as a whole. Like, like they just had so many drives that were 3-and-outs that they couldn't get anything going. And that was a big problem for them. And I don't think that's going to be as big of an issue, which I think I saw a stat like 50% of their drives were either a 3-and-out or a punt.
Yeah, it was bad. It was very bad.
It was something crazy like that. So, I don't think it's going to be nearly as bad as that. So, I do think people are sleeping on Jeudy and the Broncos offense as a whole. So
for sure. Definitely has a lot of value on this offense, but we'll keep it moving here. We're running out of time. Let's hear your tight end, and then we'll wrap up with mine and kind of wrap up these players.
Alrighty. So my tight end is is a pretty easy one. It's Mark Andrews. He's in some
what a
realms,
risk.
I know, risky guy, but I know there's been a lot of buzz this offseason about Travis Kelce, how he's going to repeat as the tight end one, how he's the greatest thing since sliced bread kind of stuff, which he is. He's fantastic, but Mark Andrews is going to smash this season. And he's finally going to have a fully healthy Lamar. He's going to have a more pass-friendly offense where he's the number one guy. And I really expect him to be the Dynasty tight end one this time next year is going to be my guess. I love Pitts and all, but I think he has everything going for him in the idea of him getting schemed open, his quarterback loving to target him, and he's going to even more pass friendly offense. So I'm really excited for them. Like something that is actually that hasn't been said as much is that like their offense in the past few years, like they were like almost last in like plays run per game, like pace of play kind of stuff.
Right.
And it's compared to the Tom Monkins, like the Bucks years where he was the OC there, like he was like top 5 in those years. So I really think the pace of play is going to go up. There's just going to be more chances for him to catch the ball, and I think he's going to go bananas this year.
Yeah, and that's where, again, there's not a big gap. He's the tight end 2 in both redraft and dynasty, and I mean, fairly, right? But I think that we are witnessing a guy that's being devalued a little bit because of Kelce. And Kelce is eventually going to fall off. And once he does, there's going to need to be a new king of the throne, essentially. And I think that's where Mark Andrews has the potential to kind of step up there. And I get it, the last year he was only the tight end number 4. Oh no. But he's a just touchdown machine when he's out there, when he's got Lamar Jackson. And Todd Monken's going to scheme up him just like he does Brock Bowers with Georgia, and it's going to be a good time all around. Now, for a fact he's going to get 100+ targets, which is very rare for the tight end position in general. So, I do think that buying Mark Andrews, I think you're going to have him for the next couple of years, and I think that people like him. If you own Mark Andrews, you respect that and you appreciate that. But I do think that people are still even sleeping on him still for what he's going to be able to do for the longevity of the next couple of seasons. So I'm with you. I know this feels like a hot take, but it's like tight end stinks. So go get a solid guy now.
Just go get your guy that that is one of those elite tier guys,
right?
And I think I think of those guys, he has the most likelihood to keep his value,
right? For sure. And that's risky at the tight end position. So I like it, I respect it. Now my guy is going to be a rookie, and it's going to be Sam Laporta. And the reason why with this is because he's currently the dynasty dynasty tight end number 10, but he's not even in the top 10 for redraft. He's around 18 to 20 in that range for redraft. And I get it. There's a stigma. Rookie tight ends don't do a lot, except Kyle Pitts, who did a lot and just didn't have touchdowns. And I'm not saying Sam Laporta is Kyle Pitts, but you look at the depth chart here, right? And you've got Jameson Williams, suspended 6 games. They've got Amon-Ra St. Brown, which is great. You love to see that. They've got David Montgomery. They've got Jahmyr Gibbs. They've got guys like Marvin Jones, Josh Reynolds. But Jared Goff last year, we talked about this with our Lions recap. 587 passing attempts. 587. Where are those going? Because they cannot all go to Amon-Ra St. Brown. Last year, Amon-Ra had 146. That leaves 440 targets to go somewhere. And you can love Jahmyr Gibbs and say he's going to be utilized heavily in the passing game. But, I mean, are you telling me that Marvin Jones, Josh Reynolds, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, these guys are all going to get 100 targets each? I don't think so. I do not think so. I could see Jahmyr Gibbs having around 80. He is a rookie still. David Montgomery, maybe he has about 40, 50. Marvin Jones, maybe around 70 to 80. But you got to remember, Marvin Jones is older. Josh Reynolds is not the guy. When Jameson Williams gets back, maybe he kind of steps into that number 2 target role for this team. But Laporta, I think he's going to have a ton of volume. This team loved him. He's a Dan Campbell type of guy, right? Coming from Iowa. And everyone kind of forgets that Dan Campbell was a tight end in the NFL. He's going to try and make his tight end good. Like, he wanted 100%. To make Hockenson good, but there was just a disconnect between Hockenson and the rest of the team for whatever reason, which is why they traded them to divisional rivals in the middle of the season, which made no sense, right? So I think Sam Laporta has a massive opportunity with this team, similar to Evan Ingram when he was a rookie, right? Everyone goes back to Evan Ingram. He had 1 million targets as a rookie with a good quarterback that could sustain those targets, right? And Evan Ingram had terrible hands. I think Sam Laporta has good hands, and that's why he's going to be sneaky good for football this year, and that's why I'm all in on Sam Laporta as my guy for the tight end position. Now, give me a quick 60-second recap on your thoughts on Laporta.
I like Laporta. Year one, I'm worried, because of the cliche of how rookie tight ends don't do well, which I wouldn't be shocked if we have 2 to 3 rookie tight ends that are in the top 10 this year, and I think he will be one of them. So, I like that pick, but I think it depends on who has him and who values him. I do think he's undervalued right now, but I could see him having like the Dallas Goedert kind of value and not any more than that, in my opinion.
Still,
which honestly is fantastic for the tight end position. So
right. Yep, I'm with you. Especially when you're ranked as outside of the top 10 for redraft. That's it's a screaming gap again, where I think that if people love him long term and they don't like him in the short term, it's a little odd to me. I think that he's going to be a little bit better, because why do you love him long term? Long term, there's more question marks, right? And I get it's the tight end position, they get better over time, blah blah blah, but in 2 years, like next year, they could go add Marvin Harrison and all of a sudden his value shot. So it doesn't make much sense to me to have that big of a gap here again. So that's my guy. So recapping really quickly, my quarterback was Geno Smith, running back Najee Harris, wide receiver Jerry Jeudy, tight end Sam Laporta. Who were your guys again?
And my guys at the quarterback position was Justin Fields. At the running back, Nicholas Chubb. Wide receiver, Jahan Dotson. And tight end, Mark Andrews.
So those are my guys. These are guys that we believe in for this upcoming season. We think that they're going to score a lot of points. They're going to be valued pretty lowly compared to what they're going to be able to give you over the next couple of years. And there's a massive gap in their potential value. So that said, you can find us again on Twitter at TDC_Calvin, at Dynasty, at FF After Dark for the YouTube channel, and you can find Dale at Dynasty_Dale. Please, if you can, one last time, like, comment, subscribe, tell the podcast to one of your friends. We're trying to get it out there. YouTube is helping us out, but you can help us out as well. Just tell somebody about the podcast. Even if you disagree, I don't care. Just tell somebody. So, no, we appreciate you guys checking out the podcast. Thank you guys for joining us here tonight. We're going to be back later this week with a Not My Guys episode, and we're going to have some fun just giving some hate to some of these players that we've been talking about all offseason. So that said, thank you guys so much for joining us. Until next time, have a good night. My sister's calling me. 1 second.